Jay, and welcome to my channel. I've taken a big hiatus, and I've been thinking about doing some channel changes, maybe a name change, but I want to get back to making content. I didn't make a whole lot of content on this channel, but I just wanted to jump into it. Maybe I'll do a video doing an update. A lot has changed. I think it's almost been 2 years since I posted. Anyway, I want to jump into this. Lately I've been appreciating a lot of magazine and book ASMR. So I want to share with you. We'll do a magazine flip through. And as you can see, Living on Less, the complete guide to homesteading life. So, me and Miss Carrie want to definitely be more self-sufficient. We've started a pretty decent sized garden for our small area. We live in a small cottage in Hawaii. Everything's small here, except for me. Anyhow, I come from Alaska, where a lot of this stuff was, we grew up with a lot of people being very self-sufficient, and I definitely want to get more into that, and luckily so does Carrie. So, we have this magazine from the American Farmer's Almanac. It's called Living on Less, the complete guide to homesteading life. So we'll just kind of flip through. I'm just going to do a short video. I'm going to do soft-spoken. Whispers usually are my favorite trigger. And I did most of my other videos. I think I only had 12. Mainly whispering. So I wanted to do something different. And do some soft-spoken. So, just making sure my camera's on. I have a kind of a weird setup right now, but hopefully we can just have fun going through this. So the front page is a nice glossy magazine. Do a little bit of tracing. Living on less. I think we could all live on less. Whatever that means for you. I think you'll figure it out. So in here's 101 self-reliant strategies. Toolkit must-haves. Bartering basics, do-it-yourself, pet food, make your own mead, which I will definitely get into because I love making mead. I love brewing. I love making my own things. And mead is very, very cool. So when we got this, and I saw that was one of the main articles, or a point in the articles, I was so stoked. And work from home, easy ways to save money, a checklist for buying land, and benefits of raising animals. Let me try and move the camera real quick. There we go. So here we have this lady holding the hen. And definitely want chickens. I think that would be so cool to make your own eggs, and you could have meat if you wanted to. So the inside is very it's a pulp. I don't know what it's called, but it's not classy. So here are all the contents. Try and move my mic. Raising food, kitchen helps, saving money, gear and equipment, and do it yourself. So just kind of flip through. I have friends who raise their own chickens to get their eggs, and it sounds like a cool thing to do if you have the land and resources to do that. I would love to learn how to raise chickens. You could do a lot with eggs, and like I said, if you needed meat, chickens. Investing in your future. Tips for buying land. Yeah, that's a big contentious topic here in Hawaii. There's the land value is so outrageous. It's kind of to the point where if you don't have family or you don't have a lot of money, there's very slim opportunities for affordable land, especially on different islands like Maui here. It's either old land that you have through family, or you have to be multimillionaire for sure. It's kind of outrageous. And the drones. See this guy? There's been a lot of drone use lately because of COVID-19, which I think was pretty crazy. They can use drones to see who's not listening to orders, which, I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm just going to say it's pretty weird knowing there's authorities using drones and stuff like that. So, anyway, they talk about understanding your land in here that you want to bid on, right? So like zoning, if you want animals, some places you can just get goats or any animals really. You have to know what zoning your area is in. Common sense stuff, distance to services, if you need plumbers, mechanics for vehicles, carpentry for any of your building, that kind of stuff. You gotta make sure you know where you're at. And research the area. One of my biggest, I don't want to say fears, but concerns is saving up all your money, building your credit, getting set up to buy property, and then you get really horrible neighbors. That's always it's just like a nightmare situation. Could you imagine saving for years? Then you get a nice place, and then you just have like really bad neighbors. That's why I definitely would want to invest in an area that you have a large amount of land, that you don't have to be next to people if they are crappy people. Water rights. Water rights is another big issue here. A lot of farming going on, commercial farming, and a lot of arguments about who should get water. Excuse me. And from where, especially because of ancestral ties and sacred areas to land. I might get into that in another video, perhaps. Being an archaeologist, I deal with those issues all the time. Not personally, but my company does, and they're very important issues about indigenous rights and water land use, right? Here's an interesting one. Bunnies, rabbits. They look pretty cute. I heard they're affectionate, like dogs. That's one thing with animals. I think I'd have a hard time using them for meat. I think I would have a hard time dispatching animals. Don't get me wrong, I've been hunting from Alaska. We hunt a lot. I do eat meat, but I don't know. Especially if you get to know the animals. But the rabbit manure is very good for fertilizer. Here's a little pen. Another thing is rabbits breed like crazy, right? We all know that. So you can have generations of meat and fertilizer supply. Backyard chickens. That's what I want. I want to get a flock I don't know if I want that many. I'd probably start out with like 5 or 6. Get fresh eggs. You can give eggs to your friends and family. Here's some more interesting stuff. This would be what I would be more into right here, is planting. We've been doing a lot of gardening lately. And you learn a lot, especially, if you really pay attention and you're actively in your garden. You get to see a lot of different things that you don't necessarily know or think that you would need, but you get very observational. Seed collection. We do a lot of seed collection. Most of the stuff that we have are from vegetables that we bought at either markets or grocery stores. And I'm hoping now that we could have multiple generations of the stuff that we already have, especially peppers and squash. We have quite a bit of that. Those are 2 words that I like. They're kind of tingly words. Pepper, squash. I never really dried my seeds any specific way. I did have some that didn't work, so that might be a germination problem. I might have to look into that. Oh yeah, right there, look. See that? You need to be present in the garden daily. No way around it. It is very true. And all these are points that you would definitely get to understand more the more you are involved in. I keep checking my camera. I think it shuts off after so many minutes, but definitely you need to learn the area you're in and look at the sun and the garden location. I know there's a couple of cool apps I've tried, like a sun mapping. You can see where there's a good spot to put garden beds or containers or whatever you have. Composting. That is a great way to make to enrich your soil. It's also a good way to cut down on refuse, waste. I notice when we compost, our trash output is a lot less, and it's good to recycle. You get a lot of the nutrients that the plants need from the dying plants that you already used. You can make compost tea. You could do whatever have you. Sorry, my throat's a little froggy. I had a bad fight with the air conditioning last night, which is a great problem to have because I'm not hot and dying. Planting at the wrong depth, that's something I learned too. I had a tendency when I first started to plant seeds too far, but you get the hang of it after a while. You can see the different depth for different plants that you have. Spacing, I also don't pay too much attention to that. I try to maximize my germination, and one of the great things about being in a subtropical environment is that a lot of plants love it, and I have had a lot of germination success, which I'll throw a whole bunch of seeds and think, none of these are going to take. I'm going to put a bunch, and then a whole bunch of them take. Then I have to weed them out, and it's hard to throw away plants, even if you need to weed them. Companion planting, I've done a little bit of this, but I don't know a whole lot. But that's something very, very good to know, and they give you a nice cheat sheet here for companion planting. So they give you the crops, what's near, and what to keep it away from, or what to put near, to plant near. Plant is being the verb. Sorry about that. There. So peppers, carrots, and tomatoes. But keep away from kale or beans. That's good to know. So you can look into that. The three sisters, we definitely planted beans, squash, and corn together in a few of our buckets. So hopefully those do really well. We'll see. And here's something I would love to do: make my own greenhouse, but I don't have I don't have quite the space for it, and I don't own the land. So these look kind of like hoop houses. Where we are, it gets extremely windy, so these wouldn't be able to withstand. I would definitely have a hard time keeping those up. I would need a semi-permanent structure. We do have one raised bed garden with multiple sections, and the rest we do in pots. There's a couple of cool videos out there on self-wicking buckets. You guys should check it out for sure. Recommend it. They've been working well for us. They're also great because you can move them if you need to find new sunspots or if you need to relocate them for any reason. Dude, homemade tortillas. That sounds so freaking bomb right now. Especially tonight, we're gonna have fish tacos. I never used to like Mexican food. I mean, I didn't dislike it, but I just thought it was unexciting. But now I really appreciate it. I want to make my own tortillas. Do-it-yourself seasoning packets. I have a bunch of Thai chilies and Hawaiian chili peppers, and that's my goal, is to make my own sriracha sauce and to also make my own chili seasoning, which I think would be great. Also lime. I've only recently been using lime on food, and it makes such a huge difference. It's so good. I'm trying to be healthier. I'm trying to eat avocados more. And when I ate them plain, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's just kind of so neutral that it's weird. But now I throw salt, pepper, and lime on there, and it's a totally different game. Also, if you use lime or lemon on papayas, I didn't know, cuts down on the perfuminess, the very sweet floral scent. And I didn't really grow up with tropical fruit, so you might know these, I don't know. Now here is the coolest part of this magazine. The Need to Mead. I actually have 6 batches of mead going as we speak. I have a blueberry mead, which came out delicious. My dad loved it, which I was surprised. He's not a big wine drinker. And then I have a Sizer, which is actually an apple juice mead. And that one I made a little bit stronger. So my goal is to make what are called session meads. Sorry for the popping. I'm trying to control that. My goal is to make session meads which are low alcoholic meads at about 5%, so you could drink multiple of them, kind of like a beer. And I do want to carbonate them, so that's my main goal. But I also wanted to make one or a couple of batches that were more like wine, high ABV, sweeter, a little bit thicker. And I did that with the Sizer, so that came out a lot stronger, and it's very good as well. It's very smooth, a lot smoother than I thought it would be. And then I made a couple batches of green tea mead, and they came out very strong with tannins. I use a lot of tea, so I need to water those down and figure out what I'm going to back sweeten with. But I'm very excited for those. They've been mellowing out. And then I have a few batches of what is called traditional mead, which is just honey, water, and yeast. There's a bunch of different names for different juices that you can use honey with to make mead. So at the very basic, if you don't know, mead is just honey, wine. It's honey wine, but I'm sorry, it's honey, water, and yeast. And then if you use different ingredients, then you have different named substances. So anyway, it is one of the easiest things to make. You pretty much just get the ingredients ready, and then you let nature take its course. I've never made it with honeycombs, raw honey. I've used processed honey from stores, which are the ones I bought say they're wildflower, but that also can be not misleading. But a wildflower could be a mixture of flowers. If you get really into understanding honey, you'll find different flavor profiles based on different regions and different flowers that bees collect the pollen from to make the honey. So when you make it, you basically need a container. I don't know if you can see this glass container right here. And then you need your source of honey. And some people will boil the water to dissolve the honey. If you do that, it can alter the effect of the honey taste. You can have a more cooked taste, which basically means that some of the lighter honeys, their floral characteristics can get cooked out. I'm not too much of a purist. When I make mead, I want to do it as natural as I can. So I don't boil it, and I don't add any preservatives or sorbates, sulfates to help control fermentation. And maybe I'll do a video on the whole brewing process. But basically, you can add chemicals that either speed up fermentation, or you can suspend fermentation, or you can suspend yeast so it won't ferment. And there's different chemicals. Some people link excessive use of that or consumption of that with different diseases. And that's not really why I'm an advocate for natural mead. It's mainly because of accessibility. I have to order everything online. There are no brewing stores on Maui, and I have to kind of, figure out, is it worth buying and shipping? But anyway, if you look in here, there's a couple other things they have in their kit. This is a siphon tube right here, so you can transfer fermented mead. It's called racking, and then you can let it clear. And you do that with a siphon. This right here probably is a okay, we're back. My camera just went out, so I think it's 20 something minutes. I don't know. Anyway, if you look right here, this looks like it's probably a hydrometer, which is a tool used to calculate the approximate alcohol inside your ABV per volume. So just by looking at this kit, what I could tell you is that it's popping. I'm sorry, guys. They put the honey mead in here, so honey, wine, water, and you let it ferment. And after their decided amount of fermentation, the minimum is usually a month. But if you have thicker, sweeter meads, it can go anywhere from 6 months to a year before it tastes optimum. So you're in it for the long haul with a mead. When you brew beer, you could brew it in, some beers can ferment in 2 days if you have the right conditions. But age is definitely your friend with mead. Then they're gonna ferment in here. They're gonna rack it into here, leaving the yeast and the sediment. When you ferment in here, you'll get what is called lees, which is like a sediment of yeast on the bottom. So you don't want that. There's nothing wrong with it, but if it can lead to gas, it could lead to distaste. The presentation. So you rack it in here and let it clear. So it's just the actual wine. There's no other sediments. And then you can bottle it. You can bottle it with leftover sugar to carbonate it. You can force carbonate it. But I advise you just drink it. Yeah, so here you go. Here's the hydrometer. They're measuring how much before and after fermentation. And then you calculate what ABV you have. Here's a very basic mead recipe. If you can see this one. So it's a 1 gallon of filtered water. I like to use spring water. 2 2.5 pounds of honey, which is about 3.3 cups. This recipe, they use a juice of 1 lemon. They also use half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. You can use whatever you want. Like, this is where you start to experiment and see what spices and flavors you like. And then champagne yeast. One thing I will say is that you'll find a lot of people recommend champagne yeast because of their high alcohol content, what's the word I'm looking for? Potential for the yeast. So a lot of people who make mead want high percentage ABV wines coming at about anywhere from 16 to 18%. Champagne yeast can be a little harder to ferment and keep track of your temperatures. Temperature will change the taste of your product based on the yeast that you use. There's a bunch of different strains, and they have specific heat requirements or temperature requirements. So I would actually not recommend champagne yeast. I would recommend a nice common red wine yeast is what I use. And if you're first starting out, I'd probably do that too. But you can do whatever you want. So there's that. So that was your quick introduction to mead. Let's see. Preserving harvest. I've only made jam twice. And I don't know a lot about preserving anything. So I want to learn about that. Don't have much to say. Sorry, guys. Upcycling cheap food. That's how I was raised. I don't know what else to say. Reuse your food. This gets into cooking. Meal prep. Slow cookers. Dude, instant pots are freaking amazing. We use ours a lot. Slow cooker we use too. We started meal prepping. It makes lunch during the work week so much easier. Oh my gosh. And cheaper too. You don't give up and go buy food. I didn't mean to burp at you. I'm sorry. Luxury for less. You know what? Soaps. I would like to make soap. Homemade pet food. That would be the coolest thing. If you had enough land, you grew enough food for you and your pets, and you could make natural, organic food for them. It's pretty chill. Clothing repair. If you guys don't know how to sew, you better get on it, because sewing is very useful. When I was like 8 or 9, my mom taught me how to sew. And then I had to learn in school. I also had to sew a lot when I was out doing field work. Things get ripped, I've sewed my fair share of socks and work pants and tent repairs. So these are all recommended tools. Other equipment to pick up for the toolbox: hammer, screwdrivers, Phillips head and flathead, pliers, flashlight, wrenches, sockets, wire cutters, and the saw. Those are very good recommendations. Yeah, I would also add adhesives, a good wood glue to keep on hand, and also super glue. It's definitely very wise. Duct tape, Gorilla tape, anything that's very durable. You can do pretty much anything with duct tape too. It's probably the most versatile thing you could have. And this is one that gets overlooked a lot, but lubricants, they help out so much when you're working on engines, keeping your tools, working. squeaky doors, like anything you could think of. People don't really think about that. Well, I don't think about that. I do now. Clamps, that's another one. They're so useful. C-clamps, vice grips, wood clamps for woodworking. Very, very versatile. Quilting, my mom quilts a lot. I don't have the patience to quilt for fun. And I know nothing about it. Saving money. I always feel weird about this. I don't know if I should tell you what to do with your money. But it's like common sense, right? Don't be wasteful. Don't splurge. Make sure you have savings for your insurance and important things. But I think that is definitely our country in America is very, very financial illiterate because a lot of it's not taught at home, anywhere. People just, as soon as you get old enough to take over your finances, you don't know about interest rates, you don't know about credit, you don't know about credit lines, you don't know about credit cards, debit cards. Like, if you have good parents, they'll teach you that, and they'll get you ready for it. But other than that, you just got to get out there and figure it out. You'll be good. Maybe if this was a finance channel, I'll get more into that. We'll see. Dude, the art of the barter. This is important stuff. I know a lot of people that whether it's garage sales or buying used cars, services, whatever it is, people don't want to be confrontational. And I'm a very non-confrontational person. But at the end of the day, when you're going to be exchanging money, services, or goods for other services or goods, like, you need to make sure that you're getting a fair deal. Because both of you trying to maximize, right? One of you is trying to get the most out of the least, vice versa. So you can't be afraid to barter. The worst they can say is no, right? And even if they are being dumb about it and they're making, and they're mean, which I've definitely had people do, like, you're not going to see them again. You're not going to hang out with them. So definitely do not be afraid to barter. Make a good deal. All at the same time, don't lowball people. Don't be over there just kicking tires, trying to, be an ass about it. Like, you got to be responsible on the flip side. And this is interesting. I like this part. So they have this in-demand column right here. And it says there are some things that will always be in demand. If possible, stock up on these items and learn these skills just in case you find yourself in a situation where you need to barter. So barter, remember, it doesn't always necessarily have to mean you're giving goods for goods. You can offer to build someone's deck for an exchange of something. Like, it could be your skills, just like it says. So if you're a farmer, hunter, or fisherman, you'll always have the talents that other people need. Now remember, in a lot of places it's illegal to hunt animals and sell them as subsistence. So this is in a situation where you would be bartering your skill and your catch for another survival or thing of subsistence. Ammo, which is a no-brainer. That gets tricky. A lot of people don't like guns, don't like talking about them, but this is in a survival situation for hunting. Alcohol. This goes back to making mead. Man, if you can make your own mead and you can make your own beer, like, not only will you be set up, but you will have very, very good bargaining leverage. Whether it's distilled spirits, brewing, beer, or wines. You gotta do it safely. Make sure you know what you're doing. But those are skills that are invaluable. And then they list, what do they say? You always barter your skills. Don't sell yourself short either, right? You spend a lot of time doing things that you know how to do. So make sure that what you get reflects that. And fuel. Could be wood, propane, doesn't matter. Like, these are things that you can stock up, but also things you can trade fairly easy. This one was a weird section. I remember reading it. It talks about prioritizing if you lose money and kind of the steps you should take. So it's kind of common sense. Make sure that your shelter's taken care of. Like, you pay your rent. Talk to your landlord if you have any chance of getting leniency. Food, make sure you and your family's covered. Make sure your utilities are paid, right? These are kind of common sense, but the biggest thing is kind of the steps in order. Like they listed: your roof over your head, food in your belly, utilities to help you in that living situation, and then how you get to work or drive or school, whatever. And the rest you can figure out, like what's the worst case scenario you can leave. And credit, I think I'm going to skip talking about this. I don't want to turn this into a financial issue. I'm not qualified to talk about that. I do my own methods. And then being healthy to prevent medical expenses in the end. I think that's pretty common sense too. So the last part of this magazine talks about, at the end of the day, cash is going to get you what you need. So they discuss talking about investing long term, investing in precious metals, looking out for inflation, but also keeping stashes of cash in small amounts until you can get enough to keep for an emergency stash. Gear and equipment. You need a good set of knives, good cutting boards. Pressure canner, I would definitely agree, is something that's very useful. Deep freezer for sure. And a stand mixer. I got Miss Carrie one of those. You can, it helps out a lot making big batches of food. Homestead essentials. Utility vehicle, this is like an ideal, right? Not everyone can go and get this on your homestead, but I think if you're living on a homestead, this is what you're set up for. Boots, you need a good pair of boots. If you don't take care of your feet, you can't get anywhere. You're not going to be doing nothing. Same thing with gloves. They prevent you from hurting your hands and getting infections, right? And one thing I always overlook is eye protection. My line of work, I use it all the time without thinking, but I never plan for it. But luckily, I guess I always have eye pro. But so, especially if you're cutting wood, if you're working with tools, make sure you keep your eyes covered. Okay, you're only given 2 of them. You want to keep 2 of them. And then your different firearms here. It's a long rifle. Bolt action. And then here is a pistol. This is a revolver, so it's not an automatic or semi-automatic. And that looks like either a 357. Anyway. First aid kit. Out of all these, I think on this page is the chainsaw and the generator for sure. That'd be a mainstay if you're going to be off the grid. Anyway. Well, there you go, guys. There's only a couple of things I was super interested in, mainly the mead on here. But this is a cool magazine. Check it out. Obviously, I'm not endorsed by any of these people, but I definitely like it. So anyway, that one went a little bit longer than I thought. I might do the next sessions in 20-minute sessions. We'll see. But I hope you guys are staying safe out there.